Hey there, I'm Sam, and I'm currently converting this Ford Transit into a camper. You'd think that after building a few vans, each one would go faster and smoother, but honestly, it's kind of the opposite. I'm always testing out new methods to make each one of my builds better, and that often means slowing down to figure things out. This time around, I wanted to test out a hidden fastener method for attaching my wall panels. And I've got some thoughts. The idea is super clean. No screw heads showing, perfect for upholstered walls, but how well does it actually work? Let's break it down. So if we look at the back of our wall panel, there's these trim clips that are embedded into the back of the panel. Then in our wall framing, there's a washer set flush to the surface of the framing that corresponds with the location of each trim clip. The trim clip and washer then line up and snap together. I came across this idea a while back and had to try it. And while I don't think this has been used in a lot of vans, it is using a piece of hardware, this trim clip, that's actually made for automotive uses. This is a general purpose automotive trim clip used to attach interior panels in vehicles. This one specifically that I bought says General Purpose Chrysler Trim Panel Fastener. I ordered this particular one just because the dimensions of it seemed like about the size that it would work well for this. Clips that are either like this or that are a plastic style trim clip are used in a lot of different places in vans. For example, if we pop off this back wall panel here, and again, this is a panel where you don't see any exposed fasteners, we'll see that behind it, we can see that behind it is a plastic style trim clip. These ones work in basically the same way. There's a hole and the clip snaps into place within that. I went ahead and did all the wall panels, both small pieces and the large sections, using this method. And so let me go ahead and show you what my process was for embedding the clips in the panels as well as the washer in the wall. I'm going to demonstrate this on a small piece out of the van. So I have a piece of 3/4 inch plywood here to represent my furring strip in the wall, and then I have a piece of 1/4 inch plywood here to represent the wall panel that's going to snap on. So the first thing I did was line these two up where they wanted, or in the van I had them tacked in place with temporary screws, and then I'm going to drill pilot holes. This is a drill bit that's about 1/8 of an inch. So by drilling the pilot hole through my wall panel and my framing piece at the same time, I know that everything's going to line up, rather than doing it in one and then trying to mark the location on the other panel. I'll set the wall panel off to the side and we'll work on embedding the washers, because those are going to get glued in with an adhesive and that'll need just a little bit of time to dry. So I'm using a washer that's for a 5/16 inch bolt, and basically the inside diameter is about 3/8 of an inch and the outside is about 7/8. And I just picked this washer based on how the clip fits in it. So when I push the clip in, it pops in snugly but can't quite back out, and that's what we're going for. First, we'll expand this hole to be the same width as the washer, but basically just deep enough for the washer to sit flush with the wood. So I'm going to swap to a 7/8 inch Fastener bit. Okay. Put the washer in. Okay, just about right. Now we have our holes for the washer to set in place into, but we need to open up the space behind it so that the wings of that clip have somewhere to go. When I measure how wide these wings are, it's about 1/2 inch across. And so what I'm going to do now is switch to a 1/2 inch Fastener bit, and I'll use that to bore out the center. So here's what it looks like now. We have the 7/8 inch hole with the 1/2 inch hole in the center of that goes all the way through. Now we're ready to get washers and glue them into place. For this I used a contact adhesive. So what we'll do is we'll put some on both surfaces. It's got to dry a little bit, and then you press them together. We got to wait about 2 minutes till this adhesive is ready. Hey, real quick, I want to pop in with a quick ad break. Not for a sponsor, but for a service of my own, consulting. If you're working on your own DIY camper van build and could use a second set of eyes, I offer one-on-one consulting calls. Whether you want feedback on your layout, help troubleshooting part of the build, or just want to pick my brain about tools, materials, or the whole process, I'm here for it. I've been through the ups and downs of building vans, and I want to help you avoid some of the headaches that can come along with it. If you want to schedule a call, you can do so directly through my website, and there's a link in the video description below. Alright, back to the build. Alright, so the adhesive is dry enough I can touch it on both sides and nothing transfers to my finger. So next I will get the washer in place and then set it down with a hammer. One, that helps squeeze it into the hole there, and two, it just makes sure that adhesive is getting bonded really well. Okay, so that one's good to go now, and we'll set that off to the side and get our clips set up in this one. The head of the clip here is about a ½ inch, maybe just a little bit under. So what we're going to do is first drill a hole about a ½ inch deep to countersink the head of the fastener into. Okay, and we want this one to be just as deep or a little deeper than the top of that fastener. So that one's good. And second one. Okay, now in order to get the fastener into place, we need to open up the hole in the center a little bit, and I found a 1/4 inch drill bit to be just about perfect for this. Okay, so now we have kind of what looks like the same as this, just smaller. And we're ready to push our fasteners into place. And basically, you can just put shit in. It's a little tough, so I find it easier if you get a little block of wood, set that over it, and then it snaps into place. Repeat that for the other side. Okay. As you can hear from how it snaps into place, it's actually already held in there pretty securely just by the tension on the clip itself and it being a tight fit in that hole. On the top here, that head is recessed or just below the surface, so we'll be able to go and fill that in and make this smooth. I've found it helpful at this point to go ahead and take needle nose pliers and just kind of bend these out just a little bit, and that just helps make sure it's really fully set into that hole. Now the last thing I want to do is use a little bit of glue right around the fastener here to lock it in place. And then I'm also going to add some sawdust to that, basically to kind of make a glue-in patch that both holds the clip in place and will create a smooth level surface. So I'm going to throw in just a little bit of sawdust. This is some stuff I grabbed from by my miter saw. Just push that inside those holes there. Kind of want it loosely filled because we want mostly space for the glue to fill the area. But the sawdust also helps so that the super glue doesn't just drip all the way out the bottom. And then I'm using a thin super glue with an activator so it'll dry basically instantly. I'll go ahead and get those ready. Put a few drops on. Soak in, and then we'll What I like about using the super glues with the activator is it's basically dry immediately, so I can go ahead and sand this flush. Okay, so now we have our wall panel example piece with our clips glued in and a flat surface created. So now this can get upholstered over later and you won't notice any dip or anything where that clip is. The contact adhesive I used over here needs a full 24 hours to get to its full strength, but for this demonstration purpose, it should be dry enough. So now we can just take this half and align it over and snap it into place. And then it's good to go. So I did that for basically every wall panel. In some areas where the panel will be totally behind a cabinet, such as this lower part here, I skipped doing the clips and I'll just put that in with some screws. But for the rest of these, that's how they're attached. So let's take a look at this one. I can pop it out and it fits pretty snug. I gotta pull on it fairly hard. This one has 6 clips, 3 along the top, 3 along the bottom, and then it fits back in place. About the same way. So how well does this work? Well, overall, I'd say it works pretty well. For the small to kind of medium-sized panels, I'd say it works great. For the larger panels, that's where I did run into some kind of complications with it. And basically, where these trim clips had problems or struggled is when there wasn't a perfect fit between the wall framing and the wall panel itself. So usually because there was some curve that the panel needed to bend to. So this could be because the wall has a little bit of a curve to it, or because there's a bit of an unevenness between the wall panel and the framing behind it. It just, if the panel needs to flex to fit into place, it was a little too much for the clip to hold on to. So you really need a pretty accurate fit between your wall panels and your wall framing for everything to mesh and snap in really tight. Over on this side, this panel fit really well, and so this one has no problems. If I give it a kind of a strong tug here, I can pop it out of place, pop the bottom out, but it all fits. All the clips seat pretty evenly, and I'm happy with how this one fits. I will say another note is you can take some pliers and bend the wings of the clips inward or outward a little to kind of adjust the tension that they go into the wall with. The more times you push it in and out of place, the pins start to bend in a little bit, so sometimes it helps to kind of bend them back out just a little bit. So after trying out this wall panel hidden fastener method, I was thinking about whether I would do this again, whether it worked well enough for that. And I think I would. Overall, it worked pretty well. And I especially really like it for the smaller panels that just kind of fill in the odds and ends areas. If you didn't have any wood framing or furring strips on the wall, I think this would actually work exceptionally well because these clips are really meant to go into just a metal panel. And so it also got me thinking about what a build would look like if you skipped that framing and just had your wall panels going directly to the metal. So that's something I may experiment with in a future build. Let's do a quick pro-con list about fastening your wall panels like this. For the pros, first off, I think it just feels really clean and really professional to have panels that just snap into place. And going along with that, you have no visible screws that just kind of detract from the look of the wall panels. It also makes the panels really easy to remove and then reattach if you need to get behind it to do something. And lastly, the trim clips themselves are pretty cheap. I paid like $12.95 for a box of 100. I maybe used about 60 or so clips in this whole thing. So the material addition to it is not very much. Now, for the first con though, it is a lot more work. So it's a lot more time consuming to install each of these clips and then the washer and the wall that it clips into than it would have just been just to have these panels screwed in from the front. For the next con, they also struggled in terms of their holding power a little more than I would have hoped in some of these areas where the wall panel just kind of needed a little more flex to fit exactly into place. In a lot of those places, cabinets are further going to lock in these panels, and if I need to add an extra screw in a corner here or a corner there, that's not a big deal, and still for the most part, you're going to have that clean look. Next up, so as I showed for a couple panels, and as I said, all these are going to get upholstered. And I think this method works really well for upholstered wall panels, but I don't think it would work so well if you wanted to do a painted wall panel. And the reason for that is when you're pushing it into and out of place, even though we glued that clip in place, there's still going to be a little flex and movement in that area when you're pushing the panel into place and pulling it out. And I think what would happen is if you had filled it and painted over it just to try to get a smooth, even surface, that you would end up getting some cracks and just defects in the paint around that area where the clip is. It's the same thing with when people try to do smooth, continuous walls in vans where they'll put up the plywood, it's all nailed into place, they bondo the seams. What happens is as the van drives and moves and there's just wiggle in the panels, all those bondoed seams end up cracking and just looking bad over time. Now the last con is that if one of these clips were to break off on the backside of the panel, there wouldn't be a very easy way to replace it once the upholstery is on the panel because it goes in from the front. So you would have to pull the fabric back, which is hard because it's glued on, and so it wouldn't be super easy to replace the clips. Overall, I think this was a worthwhile experiment to try out and not a total fail. It feels like one of those things where the theory is solid, but in practice, there are some limitations to it. I think it's a great option for certain situations, and it's definitely another fastening method to add to the toolbox. And hey, trying new things is half the fun of a DIY van build. If you've tried a hidden fastener method or found a cleaner way to attach wall panels, I'd love to hear about it in the comments below. And if you're building your own van, make sure to subscribe. I've got more videos on the way covering my construction methods and lessons learned as I build these vans. That's it for this one. Thanks for watching. Bye.